During a time when I was done with college and wasn't able to find a job right away, I took a job at a 7-Eleven because I needed money. I worked mostly late night and overnight shifts. What I liked about this was that there wasn't many people that came in, and I would have a lot of free time by myself to play on my phone or listen to podcasts. I was always a night owl, but I didn't really like staying up all night when I would have to work those hours. Anyways, I'd been working there for maybe about 2 months, and one night I was working by myself very late. It was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but I don't remember the exact time. The location that our 7-Eleven is at is on a road just off the highway, and we're really busy during the day, but not so much at night. We got several customers early on, and for the first few hours, I had quite a bit to do actually. But now, we would get only like one person every 20 minutes or so, and I started to get bored. I noticed in the back corner of the store where we had the soda machine and icy machines, there was a spill on the floor. Seeing as though we didn't have any customers, I decided to go over and mop it up. I left the counter and walked over to the back near the bathrooms where we kept the mop, then over to the corner where the spill was. I saw the spill. It looked like Coca-Cola. Thankfully, the floor hadn't gotten all gross and sticky yet, and the mop was working well. As I was mopping, I suddenly heard the sound of the front door opening and somebody walk inside. Realizing I wasn't at my counter, I rested the mop against the wall and looked over to see who had entered our store. Where I was, you couldn't see the front door, and whoever was in the front door couldn't see me either. I could, however, just see the front counter. I saw somebody standing at the front counter with their back to me. They seemed to be looking around as though they were looking for someone who worked there. Realizing I needed to go back there, I took a couple of steps over to them, and as I did, I noticed them turn and their head went to the side. They hadn't noticed me, but I did see them looking to the side, revealing that they were wearing some sort of mask. It appeared to be a really creepy looking clown mask. I then noticed that he was wearing a dark blue jacket and his right hand was in his pocket. Immediately I got a bad feeling, as if he was up to no good and possibly looking to rob the place. I froze in place, telling myself to stop being scared for no reason and to just go. I thought, what are the odds he's trying to rob the store? It had never happened before. But as I was standing there, I watched the man then go around and behind the counter himself. As a pure reaction to this, I jumped behind the nearest aisle and hid. I could hear the man messing with stuff behind the counter, and it sounded like he was going through the cash register. I figured he was in fact robbing the place, and as I was hiding back there, I decided to call the police. I got up my phone and dialed, but as soon as I heard the 911 operator answer the phone, I suddenly heard the man go quiet from whatever he was doing and say something. Out of fear, I quickly hung up the phone and held my breath. I heard the man shout from behind the counter, asking who was inside and to come out now. He spoke in a loud and demanding tone. I wasn't going to, though. I was way too scared to move. At this point, I just wanted to get out of there. I knew our store was being robbed, but they didn't pay me enough to try to stop this guy. I just wanted to call the police again, but obviously the man could hear me if I did. I heard his footsteps moving out from behind the counter and get a little bit closer to me. But then they stopped, and I didn't hear anything. I was not moving a muscle, and I was being as quiet as I possibly could be. Then, I heard the door to the building open and shut. I guessed that the guy was leaving, because I didn't hear anything else for about a minute after that. Finally, I got up and slowly took a few steps out. I still heard nothing, and knew this had to mean that the guy was gone. I walked over to the counter to examine what exactly the man had done, and how much he had took. When I got there, though, I passed by the front of the counter where I could see clearly outside. I saw that the man was standing right in front of the door looking inside with his creepy clown mask still on. I jumped back when I saw this, and the man started to walk inside. I ran back towards the end of the store where I had hid before, and I heard the man come in and shout at me to come out and stop hiding like a baby. His footsteps were fast approaching mine, and I knew I probably wouldn't be able to hide from him this time. I was ducking down and quietly moving through aisles to try to hide from the man. This continued for probably a minute, and I knew I couldn't keep this up for much longer. I could hear where the man was, but suddenly, I heard the man yell a curse word and then run back to the front and leave the building again. I was confused, but this time decided to stay hiding. Out of curiosity, though, I took a quick peek outside. This time, I saw a police car in the parking lot, and it turned its flashing lights on as I saw another car starting to drive away. I stayed hidden until I saw the police stopping the man, and I knew it was safe. I guess my call to the police had gone through, even though I hadn't been able to speak with them. Luckily, the man was caught, and after this night, I decided I didn't want to work overnights again. I still worked there for another few months, even working late shifts, but didn't have to work by myself again. This happened roughly 4 years ago. At the time, my friend Brandon took a trip out of town, and I had made the agreement to pick him up from the airport when he returned. I had drove him to the airport after all, and we were good friends, going all the way back to high school. When I got to the airport, his flight had gotten delayed by an hour, and it ended up being a pretty late night. Eventually, he finally did arrive, and I gave him a ride home. I wouldn't do this for probably any other person than Brandon. Plus, he paid me some cash, so it wasn't too bad. When I dropped him off at his place, I started driving back to mine, but quickly saw how I was low on gas. I pulled into the next gas station on the side of the road, which was a 7-Eleven. My experience at 7-Elevens were always good. In fact, it was my favorite gas station and convenience store. I stopped at the pump and prepaid. As I was filling my car's tank with gas, I realized that I really had to use the restroom. So when I was done fueling, I walked into the store. As I walked inside, things seemed quiet. After all, no other cars had been at the pumps, and I barely saw someone working behind the counter. I walked straight towards the back corner of the store where they had the small bathroom. I did my business and began washing my hands. I wasn't even in the bathroom for more than probably 30 seconds total. Suddenly, all the power in the store went out, and things were pitch black. This was really strange because it hadn't been raining or storming or anything like that. I finished washing my hands and reached into my pocket to pull out my phone. But when I did, my phone wasn't there. I quickly realized that my phone had to still be in my car. It must have fallen out of my pocket, which is something that happened quite a bit. I really couldn't see anything at all, so I felt my way over to the door and left the bathroom. Once outside, into the 7-Eleven, everything was still dark, except now I could just see a tiny bit more from the windows on the far end of the store. Everything was silent. I began trying to walk to the front of the store without hitting anything. As I was slowly walking, I heard footsteps from the next aisle over, about 20 feet away. I said out loud something about the power being out, trying to make conversation with the person. But whoever was there didn't say anything back to me. I already felt a little creeped out from being in the dark late at night. But now with a person in there who wasn't talking to me just made it a little weirder. I kept moving and eventually found the front counter. I looked over it and could see a little bit over due to the moonlight shining through the window next to it. It appeared as though nobody was behind the counter at all. In fact, I said hi and didn't get a response. After this, I went back and started towards the front door. I could actually see it and went a couple of steps over to it when suddenly I felt somebody grab my right arm and yank me back. I fell to the ground after losing my balance. Then, I felt myself start to be dragged backwards. It was terrifying, and I was desperate. I rolled over a little, and then swung my body around, and as I did, kicked as hard as I could to whoever had me. I definitely hit them, because I felt solid contact, but again, couldn't see anything. I was let free momentarily, and got up to run outside. Due to it being so dark, though, I ran into some type of display that they had at the front of the store. I heard whoever was running behind me close in, and they reached me once again. My arm was grabbed once more, but this time, I didn't allow it to pull me back or down to the ground. I kicked backwards and felt myself hit whoever's leg was there. I heard a man's voice yell a little bit, and this time I was able to get away again and make it all the way outside the door. I got out and ran to my car, seeing all the lights outside to the gas station were off as well. When I finally made it back to my car, I didn't see the man exit the store. I still got inside as fast as I could though, locked my door, and started my engine. As I began to drive away, I felt somebody grab my back passenger side door handle and try to open it, and then heard a loud bang against my back door. This caused me to hit the gas even harder than I already was, and I sped away from there. I was able to make it back home all right, and I was pretty shook up for the rest of the day. I haven't gone back to that 7-Eleven since then, but I have drove by it several times. I always wonder what exactly was going on inside there. This happened back when I was like 16 and in high school. At the time, my older sister had just graduated high school and had been accepted into several different colleges. We lived up north, and she was looking to go to school in the south. Because of this, my parents, sister, and me all made a road trip down south to visit schools. We saw several schools the first few days, and were going to visit the University of Oklahoma the next day. I remember that it was a late night of driving, and we had been up for quite a while. We were maybe an hour or two away from our hotel when I heard my dad say we were almost out of gas. We had an SUV, and at this moment, my parents were in the front seat, my sister was sleeping in the middle row, and I was in the back row seats. My dad pulled off the busy road and onto a quieter one. As we drove down the road into a seemingly small town, I remember just thinking that the town seemed sketchy. Maybe it was because it was really late at night, or maybe it was because of how everything seemed a little old and run down, but I just felt a little bit creeped out. We pulled into the gas station, and as we did, my dad looked to see if anybody else was awake. I saw that my mom was sleeping as well, and my dad asked me to run inside the 7-Eleven we were now at and get him a coffee. I said sure, and left the car and walked up to the store. As I was walking there, it was very quiet, and just 2 other cars were in the parking lot. I entered the 7-Eleven and went to where I guessed the coffee would be. Walking inside, everything was eerily quiet. I was able to find the coffee and made a cup for my dad. As I was finishing up, I heard footsteps coming near me. I looked over and saw a man coming around the corner of one of the aisles, walking slowly towards me. The man was short and wore sunglasses, a black jacket, and I could see he had a longer beard. He was looking right at me as he was walking. I thought maybe he wanted to get a coffee and I was in his way, so I started walking in another direction. When I did, I noticed the man stopped near the coffee, but he didn't take any. Instead, he seemed to just stare at me, not taking his eyes off me wherever I was. I was hungry myself and thought the guy was just a little weird, but that's all. I tried to shake my feeling of being creeped out and went down to the snack aisle to see what they had. But not long after this, I was looking at some licorice, and I heard some noise at the end of the aisle. I saw the man once again just standing there, leaning into the aisle and staring at me. I decided at this point that the man was a complete creep, and I grabbed a snack and headed towards the counter. I wanted to just get out of there. I checked out, buying a snack, some water, and my dad's coffee. As I was paying, I casually turned around and saw the same guy staring at me again. It didn't surprise me, and once I had checked out, I quickly walked out of the 7-Eleven and back to our SUV at the other side of the parking lot. When I got there, I saw my dad had finished getting gas and was sitting in the front seat of the SUV looking at his phone. When I had almost reached our car, I looked behind us. There was a bit of grass next to the parking lot to the 7-Eleven, and I saw some random guy also wearing sunglasses oddly, walking towards us. I then looked over to the 7-Eleven and saw the guy that had been watching me walking past one of the cars in the parking lot, going straight for ours. I quickly got inside our car, handed my dad his coffee, and then carefully went to my spot in the back seat without waking up my sister. Now that I was in the back seat, I felt safer, but saw that my dad was still on his phone, not really paying attention to what was going on outside. He didn't seem to be in a quick hurry to leave, and I looked out the windows and now saw 2 more random guys in sunglasses walking towards us. The same guy from the gas station was there as well, and he was now just about 20 feet away. There was 4 people, all walking towards us, and I now yelled to my dad to leave because there were people coming to us. My dad looked around, confused. Luckily, our engine was already running, and once my dad realized what was going on, he saw it just in time when the men had almost reached us. My dad sped out of there and back onto the road, and quickly made it back onto the freeway where we had been before. I have no idea who those guys were or what they wanted, but they sure were suspicious. I'm glad we got away before they reached us.